You won't get far in any Christian act of worship, or indeed very far on this website, without encountering the notion that God is love. Now, even that three-word phrase is crammed with ambiguity. God. Well, God could be anything, from a wooden idol to the God described in the Old and New Testaments, to some vague agglomeration of everything that we think is nice or positive. Bill Clinton would have told you at his impeachment hearing that even the word is could be open to different interpretations. And as for love, well, we have a bewildering array of meanings there, from the romantic to the practical and everything in between. Let's just assume for a minute that we are talking about the God of the Bible. And let's assume just for now that the word is simply means is. So what does it mean that this particular God is love? To answer that question, I want to tell you about a truck. It's a big Indian truck with tassels in the windscreen and chains on the front bumper. Every possible surface is covered with decoration, and above the cab is a huge panel emblazoned with the words God is love. The truck is parked in the yard of the Missionaries of Charity Orphanage, founded by Mother Teresa in Kolkata. Inside the building, starving children are cared for by dedicated nuns who expect no reward beyond the sense that they are doing good. Outside, any visitor must step over the beggars who live and die on the pavement in order to get inside the building. Each day the truck is used to bring vital supplies for the work going on inside. So, is the message on the truck true because of what's going on inside, or false because of what's going on outside? Of course, the answer is rarely that simple. The love of God does not prevent the existence of beggars, but it does motivate the compassion of those who would do something for them, or for the orphans, or for anybody else in need. It is my belief that God does indeed love the world that he has made, but leaves its occupants to find their own way of reflecting that love. As is often the case, love shows up against a background of hate, as much as light shows up against the shadows. You know, had I stayed inside that orphanage, watching the nuns as they cared for the little crumpled forms in the cots, I suspect I would have had no difficulty at all in believing in the love of God just as long as I stayed there. But of course I couldn't stay. And outside the gates, love does not necessarily prevail. Whenever I doubt the love of God because of what is going on around me, I look to the cross. In that single act of self-sacrifice, I see the love of God writ large. I see an utterly good individual who embodied every aspect of God's love willingly snuffed out at the hands of cruel men. Here we are back to light and shade again, the one showing up the other. The love of God stands in defiance and contrast to the cruelty and spite of which human beings are capable. We are reminded of that every time an individual motivated by God's love goes the extra mile or sacrifices themselves for the sake of others. In historical terms, the love of God is demonstrated rather than just imagined. Listen to these words from the Apostle John. By all accounts, they were written later on in his checkered life, when he had found ample opportunity to reflect on what he had seen in Jesus. This is what he writes. This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world, that we might live through him. This is love. Not that we love God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. To get through life seeing nothing but the love of God would be like going through life without ever seeing a shadow. The shadows actually make sense of the shapes which create them. There will be light and shade, just as there will be love and hate. However, It's my belief that the love of God shown in the cross and lived by his people will always prevail. That is one of the roots of my faith.